is up, guys? Politics Gaming here, and today is a brand new episode of the United Mexican States. Go ahead and leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you are new. If you guys want to see more content like this, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss anything whenever I do make it to the channel. And look forward to a couple more tutorials coming out, as well as more episodes of the Mexican series. So other than that, let's go ahead and get into it today. First thing we want to do, we're going to go over to debt. We're going to see we have a 1.4% surplus as of right now. But what we really want to do is we want to go over and we want to look to see what our budgetary surplus actually is. So we're going to go over to budget and we're going to go to a structural surplus. This is the number that you really want to pay attention to rather than this number right here. I need to make a dedicated video in order to talk about both of these and what you need to know in order to not be confused as to what exactly you're looking at essentially. But I'm not gonna, waste time talking about it. But that is the number that you really want to watch out for whenever you're making a lot of spending plans. So essentially, what we want to do, look at that. We had like such a increasing budget excess, and then it finally kind of dipped all the way down, mainly because of our spending. Wow, look at that. Ethiopia, $161 billion. Budget surplus right now. Jesus Christ. Let's go and look right now to see what theirs is. Regime, they have a national deficit of negative 140% right now. Why is their deficit why is their surplus so high? What is going on in Ethiopia right now? It does look like the war in Ukraine has actually come to an end. Yeah, it actually has come to an end, and Russia seems to be occupying a lot of these areas right here, a lot of these cities. So it looks like that. What is this? Did the war just come to an end? Is the fighting kind of stopped right now? There might be a pause in the fighting. Massive protests just broke out in both countries. Oh, no. Okay, yeah, the war did come to an end. Russia gave up all of the cities in occupied Ukraine, so it does look like that we have returned back to February 24th, 2022 borders, and war ended just short of about 2 years in. So 0.05% increase in the population of Mexico. 2% of human beings belong in Mexico. And let's go over to taxation. Let's go ahead and look at our tax plan right now. So what we could do is that we can reduce the middle bracket and possibly increase just a little bit. We want to have this maybe around like 13 to 15% would be an ideal number. I could possibly reduce this to about 1%, mainly because just that way, it's kind of like just a little more fair whenever it comes to tax policy. Yeah, I say fair whenever the lower class just doesn't even pay taxes. Yeah, that's totally fair. Yeah, and I can actually increase the bracket of income tax on the high bracket, and that could literally fund the entire elimination of the bottom bracket. We could lower the company tax from 30%, mainly because we could encourage some economic growth. I don't want to reduce it too much. I mean, I could go for 25%, but kind of because of the political party that we are in. We are nearing a presidential election, so I believe in the next episode we could be covering the election. So we have 30, 60, 90 days we're going to cut off from this mainly to get to the next quarter. So in the last episode, we actually did legalize the shale oil and gas sectors. So what we're gonna do is, well, we have some money in the treasury, so we can actually use this money to cover the construction of these sites. We're gonna build 10 of each, and so gas, I believe, could be a little more plentiful whenever we're kind of like trying to find it. We're mostly gonna find it in this little area right here. So if I actually try to build it, we can find right there. So we're gonna build about 5 of these, I believe. Just that way, like, we're not building just a bunch of them and then all of them are basically not producing anything. That way we know how much oil we can dig for in this area. 5. We're gonna see how low we can go. I think I'll go for 6. And these will be done in like 40 days, so we'll have it done in this episode. And then oil wells, same thing. I'm gonna go ahead and look. So we have average production here, but we're gonna go ahead and go find some actual production. So let's go over to California, very weak. Where can we find this? So we have weak. Can we find some near? Yeah. We're gonna find some in the Gulf of Mexico, near the Gulf of Mexico. All right, and we have 6 of each. That way we don't build too many, and then we're just digging for nothing, essentially. What we're also going to do is that we are going to go to the very border of the United States and Mexico, and we are going to build 3 oil platforms. We're going to be scrounging for as much oil as we can. That way we can start to kind of develop our oil sector. So we got that. A 3rd generation nuclear power plant is available to be built. Could we finance the entirety of this on to 75? We can get it done in 5 months. Yeah, let's go ahead and use our budgetary surplus on a nuclear power plant. We are going to build this in... We're going to build this in the San Luis Potosi region. We're going to build this just outside of San Luis Potosi. And that actually got a little bit, mainly because of the interest that we're actually borrowing, because we're not funding it entirely, but we're actually getting a little bit of interest off of the construction as well. So we'll get that done in about 5 months, which is really good, mainly because we can, again, secure our own energy security. The main reason we're also going for the oil wells as well is mainly, again, for that oil security. That way we don't have to worry about massive geopolitical events shaping energy policy in Mexico. Police right now, we don't have any sort of crime wave right now. However, crime is starting to kind of like level off, which is very high. We don't want it to be 27.46 out of 100,000. That still makes us the number 11th largest by crime rate in the world. And we're only seconded by Trinidad, Tobago, Nigeria, Honduras, a lot of other Central American countries. What we're also going to do is we're going to do some more Secret Service funding for the head of state. We're going to increase funding to the Vice Squad, and then we are going to increase funding to... We're possibly going to do that to illegal immigration, mainly because I believe we are experiencing a wave of illegal immigrants right now, which it would make sense to do that. Border surveillance could receive more funding, and fight against illegal immigration will receive more funding, which will be $1.5 billion for police and $1.5 billion for immigration. Let's go ahead and do that. And as well, we're going to invest in about 30 different detention centers, which will cost us $1.35 billion. We will get that done in about 2 months. What we're also going to do is we are going to go to Guatemala. We're going to do construction of separation walls on land borders. Construction of internal borders within areas of free movement, such as the Schengen area, is prohibited. In order to do this, you must first break the agreement with the area involved, hence leaving the Schengen area. So what we're going to do, 500 miles or 500 kilometers of the border will have a border wall in it. This will cost the Mexican state $9.3 billion out of its $14.9 billion treasury reserve. We will get this done in about 6 months, take up about 37,000 workers. I think we can actually do 100 workers per kilometer. I believe this is what it does. It says per building, but I believe we're doing it by per kilometer. 50,000 people will be tasked to work on this construction, and it will be done in the next 5 months. So we'll go ahead and approve that construction there, and we will start to try to stem the illegal immigration flow into Mexico. However, due to the need for immigration into our own country, because we do have a population of people that are leaving, so we actually are having some sort of net positive immigration right now, because we're receiving so many illegal immigrants that we're having people leave, but we're still receiving more illegal immigrants. But then those illegal immigrants are then immediately leaving because they're using Mexico as a transit hub in order to get to the United States. We already have an immigration agreement signed with the United States in order to detain and get these immigrants some sort of asylum and everything. And I believe we're also going to try to sign an agreement with Guatemala to try to receive them and give them asylum. But what we're also going to do is that we're going to reform our immigration system. We need to be able to import people from other countries and get people to start working for us in order to get more tax revenue, in order to just have some sort of system where it benefits us. That we receive more people from disadvantaged countries like Nicaragua, Honduras, Guatemala, even Belize, and we can try to say, hey, instead of going to the United States, we're making ourselves a better country. You can come and help us in that effort. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a massive reform to immigration right now. We're going to determine the immigration policy. We have very selective and very controlled with quotas. We have selective and controlled without quotas, and then permissive little controls. So essentially what this is, immigration policy sets guidelines for authorities to either limit or encourage immigration. A permissive policy can fulfill a significant need for positions to be filled in certain essential professions and or because of an aging population. Immigration is also a factor in growth because immigrants will work and consume in that country. Illegal immigration, often by those willing to earn a living, can lead to insecurity. So system of quotas sets a precise number of legal immigrants who can come to work in this country, which is economic immigration, and so do not apply to family unification or requests for asylum for humanitarian reasons. These quotas allow authorities to favor those with higher qualification, but on the other hand leads to illegal immigration by those who intend to enter the country with any way they can. So essentially, we're not really looking at people saying, hey, like, if you want to come here for economic reasons, go ahead and like make an application and we will accept you if you want to come work for us. We want to try and increase our population, and then that way we can get more revenue off of taxes while also not really having to worry about an aging population. So we're going to go ahead and add this to a reform. We're going to call this the Immigration and Naturalization Act. So then we have integration policy. An integration policy seeks to help immigrants living in a country to assimilate. I like how acclimate to their new society. Depending on the preferences of the authorities, it can be somewhat flexible so that immigrants can enjoy the same treatment as citizens, and it can also impose various requirements to meet, such as learning the national language, for example. This will have an impact on the appeal of the country and consequently on the flow of immigrants, both legal and illegal, as well as the unsolicited return of foreigners to their own country. So we want to be welcoming and appealing, and then maybe in like 5 years, we are going to go back to consider it and moderate, depending on whether this immigration policy will work the way I am intending it to. Let's go ahead and add that to the reform, and let's go ahead and see whether this is even going to pass. Marina is in favor of it, however, Pan and Pri are pretty much against it right now. We do not want to we don't want to pay people to return to their own country right now. We don't want to do that. Immigration on the policy of issuing visas, we need to do that case by case. We have 469,000 people that can be regularized right now out of 1.37 million people. We want to continue to wait for that, because I think I want to wait until we can regularize about 1 million people in order to do that. Family unification is going to be a big one. I want to go ahead and encourage unification simplified and expanded. So essentially this kind of works in a lot of different countries, where basically they say like, yeah, you can come here, depending, you know, if you have a family member or something like that that lives in another country, but we want to make sure that you have the minimum age that you meet, how many resources you can provide, whether you can financially provide for them while they're living here. But we're simplifying it and expanding it, that way they can essentially say, hey, they live in Mexico, and so if someone wants to come and move into Mexico because they have family there, they immediately then become naturalized citizens. So let's go ahead and add unification simplified and expanded, and this will be expanded to siblings and parents. That way it makes it easier for them to come in and naturalize and become immigrants of Mexico. So it looks like that the term naturalization and regularization has already been softened. What is the difference between naturalization and regularization? Regularization is essentially talking about how the granting of resident alien status to an illegal immigrant is determined. So essentially says that if the person came here and is in school, or they have already been working, anything like that, how long have they been here? Essentially, regularization is like an illegal immigrant becoming a authorized citizen living in the country that they are in. So it says expedited regularization helps support economic sectors that recruit a lot of illegal immigrants, but at the same time can produce a major inrush of illegal immigrants. So essentially we can make it very rigid, or we can make it soft. That way it kind of says like, you know, it's not going to be that hard for you to become a citizen, or at least a regularized citizen. Naturalization is essentially the official granting of citizenship to a immigrant. So essentially, if you're illegal, you become a regularized citizen. So someone, essentially a green card is granted to you. Naturalization is where you become a citizen of that country. So you are no longer determined as an immigrant, even though you still are an immigrant. So you will be a regular, normal citizen of that country, except you immigrated there from another country. That is naturalization. And it says this is the process or an official act of becoming a citizen. There's often a ceremony where a naturalized citizen take an oath, such as in the United States, for example. It is conditional on the minimum number of years of residence in the country, which varies by country. Being married to a citizen of the country facilitates the process and reduces the length of residence requirement. Oral written tests are required sometimes, and then in conservative countries, it's by a case-by-case basis. And I believe that there is a regulation of foreign nationals' voting rights for local election. This law applies throughout the country, but only for local elections. The time conditions can correspond to a certain number of years as a resident of the country. A reciprocal agreement means that in all countries that have signed the agreement, foreign nationals from those same countries are granted voting rights. This is particularly the case for member states of the European Union. I will not do an unconditional right to vote for all foreign nationals, and I will do foreign nationals in certain countries with a sort of, actually I'll do with time conditions. So essentially this means that someone that is a regularized or naturalized immigrant, they have to live in the country for a certain number of years, let's say 3 years or something like that. So it's that as soon as you become an immigrant, you are not allowed to vote until that time constraint has passed. So we're going to do, instead of a reciprocal agreement, which most likely would be the United States, we're going to allow everyone to be able to do it. And again, this is only for local elections. We're going to allow everyone to do it. However, they have to have met that certain type of time condition. We'll go ahead and add that to the reform, and that will be it for today's massive immigration reform. And we're going to go ahead and go forward a little bit. We're going to see the effects of this, so we're not really going to go to when it passes, but we are going to go at least into the middle of February. That way I can see what the effects of it are. All right, and we are back. Let's go ahead and check out what's going on right now. We have some conspiracy theories that are on the rise, so we need to take care of those. Participation is desired, and presidential elections beginning of the primaries. The primaries have just begun, Mr. President. These internal campaigns and new political parties will enable us to know the official candidate who will run in the elections in 35 days, 135 days. I remind you, but consider it carefully, that unfortunately you cannot run, for you have already completed all your terms in office by the Constitution in stunning brilliance. This is Claudia Scheinbaum of the National Regeneration Movement, Secretary General of the Marina Party. So she is going to be our next presidential candidate on the ballot in the next election of 2024. So we need to go over here and we'll see the candidates that are currently running as of right now. So we will see that we have a lot of people that are running right now. I really hope, really hope, do we have a lot of these guys that are running? PRD, yeah, we have all of the custom characters. So I swear to God, if there is any like a default character that is going to win, it was a total waste of time to make these guys the candidates. So I really hope that we can see that the candidates as they are will win. At least we will see that Xochitl Gálvez will be able to be on the ballot, which is our main opponent essentially. At least from what I believe. Let's go over to Parliament. Let's look at Parliament, Marina, and then we have pre. So it's kind of like pre, and yeah, they like expand over by like 10 points. But then we have almost the majority in Parliament. If I have to form a coalition, I will form a coalition. Aside the constitutional impossibility of you running in a national election, I'll remind you that you can still campaign for the party, establishing a political agenda and participating in meetings. This will help the party candidate to emerge victorious. So the first thing, as the new election is coming up, let's go ahead and come over here. We're gonna go over to my party. We're going to invest in some cyber protection. How much of a budget do we have to run off of? We will have to wait a little bit, but we are going to start fundraising. We are a left-wing party, so we want to ask a left-wing billionaire in order to see if they can fund us. So illegally fund the party. So it seems that unfortunately we will not be able to ask him for money unless we change the law. So we can come over here, legality of the state in relation to political parties, and regulate the funding. So what we can do is that we can do mixed and unlimited funding, or we can do private funding. Political parties are either funded by the public sector alone or by a mix of public and private sectors. In case of mixed funding, there may be a limit to the funding they can receive. In instance, large donations from private individuals are banned, and the expenditure or the cost of the election campaign are limited for each term in office. So we can do that where it's basically capped, or we can do mixed and unlimited funding, or we can do private funding. So essentially we have to get like private people, or we can do like public sector and unlimited funding. I'll go ahead and see what the reaction would be. It doesn't look like we will have a lot of support, but the right wing actually will support this decision. Or we can do private funding, which is actually the law in the United States. And mixed and unlimited funding. Let's go ahead and do that. We'll go ahead and do a TV address. It would be, I wonder how this would be in such a situation where it's like, oh yeah, hey, we're changing the campaign finance law like right before the election. I wonder how that would end up turning out. Oh, so we do have a political coalition. I thought it would dissolve by the time that the election came around. Oh, I think it will by the time. Oh, I think that's actually a parliamentary election. $1.1 million. I'm not going to do that until 60 days. Let's do regulate funding and political parties and see what this address says.
What is left of a state whose authority and longevity are challenged? A weak country plagued by instability and chaos. Well, I will not be the one who will abandon you, fellow countrymen and women. Therefore, I have decided to remove all threats by banning this organization.
I don't think that's exactly what the TV address was supposed to say, but we'll go with it. That's interesting. I love this game so much. Retinal capture, leprosy vaccine. Let's go over here and control the conspiracy theories. We will go over here, CIA, invasion of the reptilians, and vaccines toxic. We're also going to ask for more agents on the national territory. We're going to call for... We're going to do 700 agents. And cyber analysts, as we are starting a election campaign, we'll go ahead and call for about 8,000 of these guys. And then cryptography, cybersecurity, let's do 1 star additional. And again, once we actually start to get some of this funding, we need to start investing into cybersecurity for our political party, because we usually do get cyber attacked right before an election, and it always sucks. What can I do now? We're gonna do some cyber awareness, and we're gonna do... I do not have cyber protection. Let's go ahead and get that show on the road. That way we can get a little bit of protection. So it does look like that we actually completed all of these oil wells. So it does see 3.3 million, 1.1. What do we have? 2.7. So let's go over to energy. Let's see how much this is producing right now. 14 million tow for oil and 8.8 million tow for gas. Can we still produce about 4 more of these facilities? Yes, we can. So let's go ahead and try to get some 4 more facilities for each. And that is some weak production. However, we're going to try it. And this will actually allow us to build at least 1 oil pipeline and maybe even 1 gas pipeline. It won't be too long, as this will mainly just serve as a way to transport oil into the United States cheaply. That way we can, get the profit margin that we usually don't get. So that is 10. Let's go over here to gas. Let's look to see what we can build. All right, and we're gonna go and look to see what this has done. Conventional oil or non-conventional oil is what we want to look at. No production yet as of right now. However, we are now 3.8% of the world's production. We do have the option to completely nationalize it and then privatize it once it kind of gets stabilized, essentially. We are actually going to exonerate both sectors. So we're going to exonerate the non-conventional gas sector and the non-conventional oil sector. So we'll go ahead and exonerate both of those, and we will hand them about $200 million each worth of subsidies in order to encourage some employment into these sectors. We'll do 500 million for non-conventional oil. That way there's a little bit, we'll actually do 500 million for both. So we'll go ahead and go over there, 500 million. And so both of them are now completed. We could actually consider even a oil pipeline that could transport itself over to Brazil. That could actually be an option. That way we can transport some oil not just to the United States, but also to Brazil. All right, and we have a newspaper as of right now for the race for the presidency. Vicente Jaquez and Xochitl Galvez have disagreed with each other. Jaquez, I believe that's the way you say it, accuses Galvez of a lack of consistency. Xochitl Galvez casts a wide net with general and abstract statements with the only aim in obtaining the support of the largest number of militants. But when you dig a little deeper, you realize that none of her suggestions could stand up in law. So very, very strong words coming from the National Action Party in Mexico. very, very interesting seeing the presidential elections starting to pick up steam coming soon. Cannot wait for the next episode. It's going to be very fun.
The bill has been voted on and the law has been passed.
All right, and our brand new law, campaign funding law, has passed. What are you guys' thoughts on that? What are you guys' thoughts on the campaign finance law being changed? Do you think that I should have done that? Do you think that was a bad idea? What is you guys' thoughts? Let's go ahead and ask him to fund my party and immediately start to fundraise for this next election. All right, and we just got an additional $3.9 million from Mr. Silguero. So thank you so much, Silguero. Let's go over to party, invest in cyber protection. Let's go ahead and call for about $4 million to be invested in our cyber protection program. And we're going to be able to get a lot more money once the election starts, essentially. So we're getting a little, we're spending a good amount on this right before the election. So we really need to, as soon as the election hits, we immediately need to start fundraising as much as we can. And we are going to use that election in order to fundraise an absolute monstrosity amount of money. 33% of the population has been reported to be illegally working for people. But that is down from about 55%, which is really, really good and would be an amazing feat for Mexico in real life, as most of the population does actually work under the table. This is actually a story my girlfriend told me this. She said essentially what happened was whenever she went to Mexico, there was a, because I was doing some research on the Mexico series before I did this, and I did so much research. I was doing all this stuff on the economy, and there's several videos where I would talk about unreported employment, where, you know, people would basically make up their own job and then they would try to make money off of certain things. So she actually asked me that there was a time where she was in Mexico where when she was there was a guy that essentially charged them for going to the bathroom, or else they wouldn't be able to use toilet paper, or essentially they would not be able to access the toilets. So it was kind of like a weird instance where it was just, and she asked me the question, like, is that what unreported employment is? Is that what illegal employment is? And I was like, yeah, essentially that's what it is because no one is going to charge you like $5 to go take a dump. Like, that's not a realistic thing that some business would do. No business would ever do that. That just doesn't make sense. So more of an example of illegal employment, that is essentially a really good example, if you guys were wondering at what it meant. But I know there's a lot of countries, and I know there's a lot of viewers out there that are pretty familiar with it, in countries, you know, like Mexico, maybe even Argentina, where there is very high illegal employment populations. All right, so we did make it to the month of March. So let's go over here. Let's go to public debt. We are paying off a significant amount of our debt. We actually pierced over $1 trillion in debt. So what we want to do is that we want to pay off. We actually have the money to pay off the World Bank. Let's go ahead and pay off our World Bank loan just in case we ever need to call upon them again. We have $29 billion that we can use. So there is a option. I think in the next episode before the election, we are going to do a lot of highway projects. So that way, you know, when we right before the election, that way we have that underway. And then so we can kind of move forward after the election and have these highways starting to stimulate some economic activity. So it is April. We're going to wait for the next episode. The next episode will entail the election, as we are so close to the election now. We are only 92 days away. The election period starts at day 65. And after that, we'll go ahead and move to the election. And last things that we need to do. So huge election episode for the next one. I'm very excited to do that with you guys. So thank you guys so much for watching this with me. If you guys like this episode, go ahead and leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you are new. If you guys want to see more Mexico, go ahead and again Comment down below what you guys' thoughts are, what you guys suggestions for the election, what should I promise, what would you guys like to see in the series. And after that, I would actually like to start buying some weapons, starting to focus on some military production. There's a lot of room that we can use to advance our military capabilities and start to kind of project some international geopolitical power in Central America. So other than that, leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you are new. If you guys want to see more content like this, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss anything whenever I do post it to the channel. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and take care.